Yeah. So, dude, why do we choose to be entrepreneurs again? You know, there are easier ways for us to make money, right? Like, what the fuck? Seriously, how are you?
Man, I'm tired. I'm busy. Um, I'm trying to do life and also um, do stuff. So before I jumped on this Zoom with you, I'm talking to my lawyers. I'm back and forth with some people looking at term sheets and stuff like that.
Are you
So
gonna get funded? You're getting funded, sir. You're getting more money, more money, more money. Is that what's going on?
a little bit, but
Beg you
it's not
some?
it's, it's not what I want particularly, or how much I was expecting. But you have to start somewhere. So for me, it's just kind of doing the work. So yeah, that was is me. This morning I was on some innovation council, and so it's like, yeah, it's
Being entrepreneurs, which is why we're now basically going to welcome you to this week in Caribbean Tech.
yeah.
We'll now refer to it as the pop-up podcast from Silicon Carib. My name is Ingrid Riley, founder of Silicon Carib, and the brethren over there in his Trinidadian colors in red, Daniel Wagwan.
I'm Daniel Smith, CEO of Keepingly. Yeah, I'm there, man. I'm there. I missed you last week. I see you had some stuff popping off yourself.
Yes. It's been, being an entrepreneur is not easy. I swear to God, there are other ways. Clearly, we haven't found it yet because God, abundant universe, whatever you want to call it, has put these ideas in our hearts and our minds to do. So we feel compelled to do it. And so here we are, out here sometimes taking licks, but we seem to be still here. And of course, there's a lot going on. We're in Q3 and Q4. So we have, we've selected some really interesting stories for us to talk about. First up, what's one of the stories that we wrote just a couple of days ago, that's been, it's pissed off a couple of people. It's definitely sparked some conversation, and it's this. While Jamaican banks, like EXIM Bank, the Development Bank of Jamaica, seem to be failing Jamaican startups and micro and small businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, American companies like Stripe Atlas and Stripe Capital and Shopify are helping them to win. Now, the essence of this is that I saw this thread that was being put out by Monique Powell, the founder of Quick Cart Online. Quick Cart Online is a leading online food and grocery delivery business in Jamaica, and it just expanded to Trinidad. And she was talking about basically the slings and arrows of seeking to work with banks to get things like either loans or payments, payment systems set up, just a small loan, nothing that you need to basically put your house up for or sell a kidney for.
Hey, even raising small amounts sometimes.
You probably do that, right? Yeah. And then she retweeted. She retweeted this guy, they're all part of the Kingston Beta community, Rory Craig Walker, who's a founder of Jamaica Care Packages, which is an e-commerce business that delivers like Jamaican snacks and food to what we call homesick Jamaicans around the world. And he was talking about the same thing about, how he was in a pickle and he wanted just to get like a small loan to capitalize because he was growing fast, and it was like zilch in the Jamaican market, but Shopify Capital was like, yeah, here's your money. The money was in the bank account within one business day. They took back the repayments out of his sales. He was off to the races. And then Rory retweeted another thread that was from 2 years ago by Mark Gale, co-founder of TCP Things, those creative people, which is an e-commerce business that makes products reflecting Jamaican culture and everything. And he was giving his story about he just can't score with the local banks in terms of these things, but yet still he was able to get money, from external of Jamaica. And so I put all the threads together in a single story and put it up on siliconcreative.com and pump it out. And of course, being the fire starter that I can be sometimes, I boosted it. So it reached the region, right? More than usual, deeply so.
So hold on, you're just being a bacchanalist, as Trinidadians would say.
But of course.
Okay, great. Okay, ma'am.
But of course. That's what we do. And so it led to, it pissed off some people. Some people were like, yeah, this is a thing. This is standard. How are we supposed to, Jamaican tech startups, Jamaican, digitally driven startups and small businesses expect to thrive if basically the traditional financial system is stuck in their ways. So while we have the digital first entrepreneurs doing their thing, now trying to do business with the still analog minded financial systems. What's your take on this?
So it's not only in Jamaica. I respectfully submit that it's not only in Jamaica. The same thing goes on in Trinidad. I think that, even one of the reasons why WePay blew up so much was because they started addressing that problem and starting giving entrepreneurs in Trinidad some, capacity to be able to find ways. But I think that it's just a regional problem. And while our entrepreneurs, and I think that too, to me, I'm trying to look for the good in these things lately because I know how hard it could be. But I think that our entrepreneurs are resilient in terms of finding ways around because we don't have a choice.
Correct.
It's just the reality that we live in.
Yeah.
And I think that what I would say, I'm not sure if you, and there was a tweet today that I was supposed to send you, but I don't think I did. But it was by a guy called Henry Pierre. He is a VC. He is the founder of Harlem Capital.
Ah, yes.
And so he was saying today, he put out this one into the atmosphere today of LinkedIn and said, it takes $3 to $5 million in capital to go from 0 to $1 million within 3 to 5 years. Now think about that, right?
Wow.
It takes 3 to 5 million to go.
And we're talking US dollars now, people. We're talking US dollars.
We're talking US dollars.
We're talking US dollars.
But the fact is that think about all that entrepreneurs go through just to get, because and when he said it, there was questions in my mind, and I called one or two people and I was like, you see this? You see what this is saying? Ultimately, it means that when we are being asked as entrepreneurs for traction so that we could get funding, our VCs being disingenuous because they know it takes between 3 to 5 to get from 0 to $1 million. So
for certain business, for sure. Absolutely.
Especially for tech startup. And yeah, we know that people can bootstrap and we can do all those things. Yeah. But the fact is, it is so much harder. And so I think that our businesses in the region are undercapitalized a lot, and banks don't care too much because they're not in the business of taking risk.
Right.
They're very risk averse.
Yeah.
And so it's not only a Jamaican problem, it's a region problem. And I think that, even our conversation 2 weeks ago with, Outer Barbados and what, those guys are doing to try to capitalize. I know you are working on stuff to get companies capitalized. I know there are different people working. It is a holistic problem that we have, but it frustrates entrepreneurs. And what I think it's most disingenuous of folks, especially, is like, hey, it's like these companies don't need more than a certain amount of capital. But the fact is, everybody needs to get paid, everybody needs to eat, everybody needs to live. Yeah. And so sometimes we try to take this because, like, I was even commenting to somebody today, in that same conversation. It's like you're at different stages of your life. when you're younger, you can take certain risks. As
Yeah.
you start getting older as an entrepreneur, you realize, here's what I have: bills to pay, I have responsibilities, I have a mortgage, I have life insurance, I have this, I have that, I have kids to mind. So ultimately, it takes different stages. So I do think that we have to become better in terms of this capital situation. And if international firms are willing to give capital to solve it for our
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, so be it. So be it.
Absolutely. But it's a hell of a thing when some of our most promising Jamaican and tech startups, digital first businesses, have to be registering outside of their home bases. You know what I mean? So you have the Trinis, the Bajans, the Jamaicans, basically registering US based businesses so that they can, of course, access that capital from Stripe or Shopify, because those businesses are thinking globally and their platforms are catering to global entrepreneurs on these platforms. So and this has been, as you said, it's been going on for a number of years because, of course, Caribbean entrepreneurs have had to find workarounds because they have this fire in their belly to get this business done, and they're going to find ways. And that is a way of entrepreneur. We find a way, we can create a way, that's the way we do. But it's not good for the Caribbean digital economy when we are having our businesses registered outside of the region, outside of their companies, being capitalized by things outside of their companies. I thought we wanted that money to be circulating within our country and within our region. It's not a good look. It's just not a good look.
So Ingrid, I would posit and say, ultimately, I think we need to get some of the political leaders onto a sort of, this week in Caribbean Tech to have these conversations out, because I really think that a lot of politicians operate within a sphere of, oh, well, it doesn't impact me, so therefore, and either we start calling them out to account, or we bring them to the table to say, hey, here's what. And I think that, and I know we'd get to that Barbados thing and what's going on there now, but, they're one of the few. What is the problem, and how are Caribbean entrepreneurs supposed to really relate to these things? And if, some of them don't have the wherewithal or the fire, how are they supposed to operate?
Absolutely. And let's not talk about the fact that there are certain laws in place in some of these Caribbean countries that does not allow for American, European, Latin American capital investors, whether they're angel investors or venture capital investors, to invest in these businesses because there are certain laws that restrict for that to happen. Come on, and we saw that we're okay with giving a ton of incentives to investors who are pumping money into the those places that I don't really like, those BPOs, as well as our tourism market. But yet still we don't have those incentives for people who want to pump money into tech businesses and tech-enabled businesses. I mean, we're hypocrites, frankly. And that's why I said, all those entrepreneurs who've been having issues, I said, go where the love is. If the love is in Punjabi, in Accra, in Atlanta, whatever it is, go where the love is. Go where you get the money, go where you get the mentorship, go where whatever it is for you to become successful. Then you can think about being nationalistic thereafter. But the right thing is you have to focus on just simply getting the business running and getting the business stay going. So it's unfortunate, but that's where we are. So the debate was continuing. Let's see if the people over at EXIM Bank or DBJ or wherever it is, and let's has anything to say about it. Nobody has contacted me directly, but I saw Monique Paul from Quick Card with a cryptic tweet saying, boy, not everybody like when you educate the masses. So, right? So it's really interesting that is there. But yeah, it is where it is. And I was saying, entrepreneurs, do whatever you need to do to get your business going, to keep your business going. That's your priority. So if it means that you have to go register abroad to go and get American capital, do it. I ain't trying to make you be nationalistic and then die on the vine, right? But anyway.
You can't be nationalistic to your own peril. I remember this.
Damn right.
David Rudder in Trinity to the Bone said sometimes you have to leave to find your way.
Yep.
And that's one of those really harsh realities of,
Yeah.
because everybody wants to be Trini or Jamaica or this or that, but the fact is that if you're not getting the love or you're not getting the capital or you're not getting the money to basically progress your business and scale, you have to make hard decisions sometimes. And so,
and I guess, I mean, if we're to zoom out and look at this in a particular way, that, you know, they're in within, like say for instance, the United States, they are entrepreneurs who leave, you know, New York and go to Austin, Texas, or leave from Houston to go to Miami. You know, you leave from Minnesota to go to LA, to go to San Francisco, because that's where the action is, that's where the money is, that's where the entrepreneur thing is. So you've got to do what you got to do. But at the same time, some of these institutions across the region, them need to do better. Straight up, them need to do better. But anyway, talking about doing better, like to our second item, Mr. Elon Musk has been in the news lately for two things. The first thing I want to talk about is that Starlink, which is a satellite broadband company that he founded a few years ago, has applied to operate in Jamaica. And so the telecoms regulators, Office of Utilities Regulation, OUR, are now reviewing the application. Now, people are saying, oh God, you know, when I looked at some of the comments in the comment section on the news sites, everybody's like, yeah, please let him come, because we're tired of you know, Digicel, or tired of Flow, and maybe we can get better service. And some people are like, oh, I don't know about that, because satellite tends to be expensive and all that. But yeah, it's very interesting. As I went and did some research, and I don't see any Starlink applications for any other Caribbean country at this time, up until, you know, us recording this. So it's interesting that Starlink has chosen Jamaica as a first step into the region, because they are already in, I think my research showed that they're already in like 40 countries around the world, and offering this satellite broadband service. And on average, they're saying that so the offerings, you know, satellite broadband internet, but of course, by next year, they intend to do a global mobile phone service. So they're coming for Google Fi, and they're coming for the telecom thing. So it's interesting that this is going on with Mr. Musk, Starlink broadband in Jamaican market.
Yeah, I saw it last week, and I know we didn't really talk about it when I saw it, so I was just like, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, my first question was like, okay, so yeah, it really hits to the heart of, I guess, Flow and those. But you know, what is the overall intent? Was my first question. You know, why?
I guess he's just expanding. I think because I mean, it provides connect, especially in parts, because while we have across the region on average. In each Caribbean nation, we have on average, you know, over 90% of mobile penetration, or internet penetration is still hovering maybe at around between 60 and 70%. And a lot of that is outside of course, the capital cities, which tend to have the more dense and the more demand. So a satellite broadband service would be great for the rural areas and the hard to get to areas that maybe don't have like a cell tower or something like that. And as they were saying here, that one connectivity node can provide internet activity for up to 200 people. So while some people say, oh, it's, you know, it is prohibitive because it's expensive, because on average it is maybe around $110 per month. But if you're providing, you know, internet service for up to 200 people, y'all can split that. Right. And, you know, and keep going. So it's really interesting. So I'm waiting to see if competitors like Redinet, which also uses satellite broadband, which is led by Chris Daring. I'd love to hear what Digicel and Flow are going to be saying, and if the OER are going to like drag their feet to let in the hot stepper disruptor that is that is Elon Musk. I'm gonna tell you, but yeah.
Well, it's to be seen. It's 2 weeks later, so a week later since I first saw it. So
yeah, it's been interesting. The other thing that is on our minds and on our docket here to look at is, Yeah, you've heard us talk over the last few months about the Jamaican rideshare market and Jamaica delivery market, especially between Uber and Indriver. Uber, of course, is the American ride-sharing platform, and Indriver, which we just discovered, is Russian-owned. And so they've been duking it out in the market. And I think the last part that we did, we left off, and we're talking about Uber and Indriver. Basically, well, Uber is having issues in terms of that. We're having in-app glitches. They were having a very grumpy bunch of drivers that were complaining about the low costs, the low fares that were being offered, and then Indriver swooped in during that period of discombobulation with Uber, and a lot of people switched from both drivers as well as riders switched over to Indriver because Indriver was quicker. The drivers got better rates and all that. So Indriver decides, you know what, to sweeten the pot, since we have the attention, we have most of the drivers and the consumers, who switched over to us, let's just release more stuff. So they basically started offering delivery service or courier service. And so Uber is like, after nobody no more than we came down to Jamaica and we listened to the drivers, we listened to the consumers and said, all right, we raised the rates. And then lately, we have unleashed the tipping feature. So the war continues, Daniel. The war continues.
So my question to you is, which one are you currently using?
None.
Wow.
None at all. I've been home for the past couple of weeks, a slave to my laptop, because thankfully, gratefully, I have a lot of work. Q3 and Q4 is always great. And when you're growing a media business and also at the same time heading into the venture capital space as well at the same time, it's proven to be interesting. But no, so it's just these things that kind of popped up. So again, the rivalry continues with Uber and things. But I want to know, is it just simply a nice to have, or is it a must have for either of these brands? What do you think?
To have what, Jamaica?
To have Jamaica as a market, because Indriver heading to Trinidad, to your birthplace.
That's interesting. But I would say, again, I guess the thinking is, hey, Jamaica is like the biggest Caribbean island. So once we get a foothold there, then, and it follows Digicel's strategy and what Digicel has done. When you really think about it, how Digicel conquered the region was really Jamaica first and then started rolling out.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
so,
I forgot about that.
It's a proven method, Jamaica starts, and Jamaica also, because of where your dollar is, also has lower cost of operation than I would say if you go into Trinidad first, that may have a bit higher cost of operation. So again, and your government gives a lot of nice deals to these companies coming in. So I think that when you really look at it, Jamaica is a good model to follow, because Digicel's success has been predicated on being Jamaica first and then rolling out around the region. So it gives them that credibility if they do it in Jamaica, and then they're able to take all the learnings, I guess, and then roll out around the region. So it makes sense.
That's true. I never thought of it that way. That's correct. You're correct. Like Jamaica, as you said, third largest English-speaking country in the region, so it will make sense. So if Jamaicans like you, then you can roll out to the other areas. But what I'm interested in. While Uber, it has been here a year. Indriver's only been here for maybe half that. Uber was able to put out some numbers. In a year they racked up 15,000 customers, over 200,000 rides, and over $100 million in gross revenue. But I haven't heard anything in terms of Indriver's numbers, and I'm super curious, super curious about that.
And I would say, remember when that came out is when we started really to kind of deep dive into it after looking at Uber's numbers. And then
Mm.
after Uber released their numbers, they had a bunch. All the in-app issues started after they released the numbers. So I would say, I don't know, Indriver wants to take the same route.
Yes, sir, right. You are so freaking right. You're so
Because
freaking right.
it may be, so I don't know if Indriver is smart, they would keep that under wraps, so that
Yes.
see how it plays out. But yeah.
Well, we'll see. So the Uber and Indriver thing continues to go, but it's kind of it's again it's interesting for me because it shows that there are a lot of inefficiencies in the Jamaican transport and delivery market, and nothing like, I guess, digital first or tech-driven solutions to come in as well. So for me, now we have Uber, we have Indriver. Quick Cart is supposed to launch their ride sharing soon. Then we have others that are very specific to certain niches, like we have Traveler Taxi, which is just basically like a digital first regular taxi company. And then we have others that are like geared specifically to like corporate or geared specifically to like tourism. So it's interesting that a country of 3 million people has a very robust market and has enough inefficiencies, aka opportunities, that supports global brands like Uber and Indriver, as well as local brands. So clearly, there have been some loopholes and some white space that were definitely not taken up before. So it's really pretty interesting to me.
But remember also that in some of these cases, it may be franchises that they're running off. So it's not you Uber mean, or it may not be Uber mean, but it's some franchisee who they have doing it.
No, well, there are no local offices for either Indriver or Uber. None.
Right.
None at all. And they're so, and it's not like, say.
So who's their local reps? So
no, they have none. The Uber team flew in from the United States. Indriver has what they call a localization specialist, but she does not live in the country. She happens to be Jamaican. She knows the cultural nuances, which she basically consulted on them about regarding the marketing messages and the marketing visuals and that kind of a thing. But none of them have local representatives. None of them have local offices or franchisees. It's not like a Wendy's or a KFC, which has the local franchise company that's Jamaican and registered here and operated from here. That's not the case for either of them right now.
But you know what? Then you bring into the question, that brings into the question regulation, and it brings into the question taxation. Because how are they paying taxes?
Well, it's called the lawyers. Isn't those are the local representatives, the lawyers. The lawyers that got them, making sure that the loopholes, they're tiptoeing between the raindrops, those legal grays that allow them to still do business here. And maybe that could change. Maybe this is their testing period, a year or whatever. And then, okay, well, since we've gotten more of a foothold, then they will probably look about having local representatives and that kind of thing. Because when I was riding in Ubers, the drivers would say, hey, there is no number to call or that is local. You just simply send a message in the app or they may get an email or something like that. And that's it. That's the only point of contact. So I found that quite interesting as well. So yes, see, maybe in another 3 or 6 months when they have gotten reach a certain level, I guess, of penetration in the marketplace, and they will see whether or not they're going to have, it warrants having a local office and having people who are here as the face of their global brands. So yeah.
That's interesting. I have a lot of thoughts, but
give me one. Give us one. Give it one thought.
No, but my thought about it is really, and it may, if I'm just being the devil's advocate for a second, then I can understand why Uber would have issues in their app, and because ultimately there isn't somebody on the ground who is like tasked with making sure that user experience and that whole driver experience, both the customer and the driver experience, syncs with what is happening locally on the ground, because there isn't somebody who is there on.
But they have a feedback loop. So they have a feedback loop in their very efficient actually, where you can, if you don't like a particular driver, you had a bad experience, you can immediately report and have them either kicked off or whatever it is, right? So there's that feedback from the customer in terms of all that data went after each ride, and the same thing on the part of the driver. Some companies believe that that's enough. They're getting that data, but there's no human element in all of that, and so maybe they think that is enough. That's what has worked for them in other marketplaces, and so yeah. All right, so maybe it's just early days yet. Maybe they say, what, let's see if we get some more market share, and then we'll put a human interacting face with those guys. So yeah.
It works. It could work.
Well, let's see. Well, on to our next thing. So we've spoken about EduFocal before. They're, I think, around 10 years old. It's an online learning and exam preparation platform called EduFocal out of Jamaica, led by Gordon Swaby. They recently, earlier this year, or is it late last year? No, earlier this year, went IPO on the Junior Stock Exchange for some cash and to grow their business. And their primary partner in all that was Mayberry Investments. Now, months later, they have gone back for more money. So they have gotten a $200 million loan from their primary investment partners, Mayberry Investments. And so they said they're going to use it to pay down debt and to finance expansion, because when they went IPO, they were restructuring the business segments, for expansion. They went and acquired a US-based SaaS business in March, which is an American edtech company. And they're expanding into other kinds of education, like K-12 education, health education, and even thinking about going into software as a service content for companies. So do you think, as somebody who has been raising money through both Safe Notes and other things, that 200 million Jamaican dollars at a 9.5% interest rate for the first 2 years, and then a potential variable rate afterwards, is a good deal?
So I think it's interesting. And I think that the numbers
interesting is Caribbean code for like, what the fuck? Sometimes that's what that is, right? But go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
I thought the interest rate was a bit high at 9.5%, considering, and I think more in US dollars when I think interest rates. I know the interest rate here is what, 6% on some things, I think
and has been going up because of the Fed.
Right.
Yeah.
Fed has been increasingly pushing up rates. So, but yeah, I thought that number and I was like, okay, that's a really high number. But
yeah.
what about it struck me was a variable. I would think that the variable, I would hope that number comes down after 2 years.
Yeah.
But it does, for me personally, I would be very skittish on a deal like that, because the numbers seem very, very high to me. But then, I'm different, and they're at a different stage. Again, everybody in their stage, has to make decisions based on what they see. But those numbers to me were like, okay, then, yeah.
My take on it was that they clearly may have some acquisitions in the pipeline. There may be some distressed or undervalued companies, both in the Caribbean or US market, since they've made an acquisition in the US market earlier this year, that they may want to have cash on hand to, instead of starting from scratch, you do M&As, you do mergers and acquisitions. And so maybe they want to have some cash on hand to do some of that.
And if it's that, it's good for them. The question is making sure that those acquisitions pay off.
For real.
Making sure that while you may acquire, you ensure that you have, make sure that the processes that you put in place for your acquisition gives you the type of return on the investment that you're making for this acquisition. So that is just the way I look at it. But yeah, it could be a strategic move to get cash to be basically bulk up. But also my question about EduFocal was, how much into the Caribbean have they gone? I know they've, I saw some stuff earlier about them, they were doing some expansion, but then the question is how much expansion, and so it could also be an expansion play into more of the region. So I do think, they have opportunities, but then
that interest rate has everybody a little bit skittish.
Interest rate is what I'm concerned
Yes.
about versus, because I don't know if you can do go and sell some equity, and they're already on the stock exchange. So, but getting a strategic investor and getting some equity versus a strategic partner who may be in the education space, who can give them cash, front them some cash in the front or something like that, to me would be easier than a 9 point something. But they already have a relationship
with Mayberry, absolutely. So they're the ones that went to said, please, sir, may I have some more? And so they've gotten 200 million.
And it may be easier to go to the people who
absolutely, and already doing business with. Absolutely, absolutely. And as we talk about mergers and acquisitions, or a final item for this of news anyway, is and we go global again, is about Mr. Musk. So Elon has decided that he's ready to buy Twitter again, and at the same price again. So basically, this, just yesterday it popped that Elon Musk has revived his offer to buy the social media company. And so basically, he was in talks with the founder and current CEO, and they're saying, oh well, come on, join the Twitter board. He accepts, and then he changes his mind. Okay, I'm going to buy the whole company instead. Yeah, sure. And then he changes his mind because he's saying, oh, he has to be sure about that Twitter is not just simply all bots. And when he got the data, he was like, oh crap. It's not as bad as I thought. Okay, all right. And so he tries to back out, and then Twitter sues him, tried to force him to buy it, and then more time passes, and they're like, okay. Yeah, I think I'm ready to buy it now. So we will see as to whether or not he's going to buy it. But here's the thing that I found. One of the people, because again, how these people roll, one of these people who somebody has already benefited from it bigly is this already rich man, billionaire Carl Icahn, has already made $250 million worth of profit just this week after he purchased a large sum of Twitter shares months ago when the on and off thing tanked the share prices and that kind of a thing. So yeah, manipulation by Mr. Musk. What are your thoughts in terms of his motivation and what and all the hopscotching he's been doing for these last couple of months? You're making me
try to impute motives on Mr. Musk. Somebody recently told me I shouldn't impute motives to people.
Oh Lord. Okay. All right.
That's. But I do believe Elon Musk is wearing, quite frankly, I would say that, because one day you want to, the next day, and I'm not sure if you saw the story that came out last week with the conversation between Musk, Elon, Jack, and the CEO, and all.
Oh yes, Parag. Yes.
Yeah, and all of them trying to talk about, I'm an engineer and I'm really not a product guy, and and I'm like, yo, dude. And so when it dropped yesterday that he wanted to buy, I'm like, you know what? I'm not even reading this. I'm like, this dude is a trip, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But again, with all the things that he's pushed through court so far, or all the documentations that he's pushed through so far, was he trying to get the share price to
price down,
level,
trying to get it cheaper? Yeah. Yeah.
And then you come back and say you're buying at the same price. What's the motivation? It could either be a very mad genius strategy, or he's just a confused dude. But for me, I just wait to see where it all drops, because I don't know that the Twitter board or the Twitter execs have the stamina to maintain
to deal
this
with
fight.
yeah,
Yeah.
or to deal with him. I mean, but seriously though, Daniel, what do you think Elon is going to do differently with Twitter? And do we need another billionaire with a media toy?
No, I don't think
Does the world need that? Because Twitter is not it was made in America, but it's a global product.
You know, that's an interesting question. But then if I start thinking about what TikTok has done to the world and how
and it's a Chinese owned company.
Exactly. And so you realize that, you know, everybody has some motivations and agendas around being a visible face, especially in the media. So I think that, you know, Elon's objectives may be around having this tool so that he can basically further his self-interest and the interests of people who he.
Yeah, because he's a declared Republican. He's very good friends with Peter Thiel, who is a Republican strategist. The Americans are heading months into midterms. So you know, how could, you know, changes be made by somebody? Is there enough time for him to buy and have influence on Twitter that could, you know, potentially, you know, lean or have, you know, make Republicans a little bit more influential on this platform? Is that even possible? You know, but, you know, again, people don't understand the power of when you have your own media channel, whether it is a podcast like this or a media site or a social media tool like TikTok or Twitter. Having that influence and having that platform is massively influential, and how you choose to use it for good or ill is really something else. And so, and as is the head, as is the body of that business. So yeah, I know there are people who are trying to say like, no, we don't need another billionaire with a media toy.
But as you mentioned it, actually, it's one thing I remember. I was looking at Netflix recently, and I think there's this documentary about these guys who are in crypto, and so and I just did the preview, and so the guy's talking. He's like, I got into this because of Elon Musk. He said Elon is a genius and Elon has made tons of money, and so I started in crypto because Elon was tweeting about crypto, and so I got it. And I'm like, okay, I need to watch this at some point. But that sounds like, hey, I got into crypto and I made a bunch of losses, and so you know, in a tickle in life. But it does show you the power of just Elon, and he hasn't even owned a company, Twitter yet.
Yeah, just his visibility as being one of the richest men in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
And so people take his word as gospel because here's what he's done. Tesla, he's done SpaceX.
Yeah.
If he becomes Twitter, you know, he'll whip Twitter into shape. But the question is, does he need Twitter to be whipped into shape, or does he need Twitter to be his pawn in some bigger plan? And you know, that is
the question.
The question.
That is a question. Yeah, we're going to leave it there right now. We just have two things to tell you guys about in terms of events. Right now, as we speak, FinTech Islands is happening in Bridgetown, Barbados. Over 100 and odd speakers and some exhibits, speakers and startups from around the world are coming to basically talk about the future of fintech in the Caribbean. As I said, we've been saying this since we started this podcast, that fintech, e-commerce, crypto, startups are pretty much going to be dominating the narrative, the conversation, you know, in the region. And so here we are, another fintech conference, this time in Barbados. And didn't I tell you? For me, this is Barbados, again, putting another stake in the ground, sir, to say, hey, we in the BIM intends to be the fintech capital of the region. Your Caribbean Prime Minister, Mia Motley, has been making moves, both policy, regulations, laws, to say, hey, we want to change the game for our people. We want them to participate in the global digital economy from a position of power, And so, yeah, how are we going to do that? We need all y'all to come. So we should have been there, but we're not. And that's okay. We'll catch the next one. But we're definitely going to be a bit monitoring what's going on for sure and seeing what stories we can get from others.
Ingrid, and I know we missed last week, and I know it's something that I popped into one of our chats, but the Eastern Caribbean Bank, did you see they selected a new system for their financials? So they just did a tender and somebody won. And there was a question I was asking, because as you say, BIM being the financial capital, remember ECC and all the issues that they had around their crypto.
Yes, their platform was down for months.
Right, for like 5-6 weeks. And so they just issued a new tender and they awarded the new tender. And that was last week's story. So I'm like,
I missed that. Who was the tender awarded to? Because initially it was one of their I think was what's his face, Gabriel Abed's people out of Barbados. So do you remember who won it? Who won the bill?
It's a company out of India, as far as I remember.
Out of India. Interesting.
Yeah, I'd resend it to you, but so that was, I know we didn't do last week, but we started kind of populating stories, and so that was one that it drew my attention, considering the fact that they had all these troubles for 6 weeks, and then on the face of it now, let's award a new ICT contract because possibly the one what they had wasn't working, and it's interesting. But that was kind of done, and it was done at a time where we strategically could connect it. I was trying to connect the dots and see, okay, what's going on here. But yeah.
Interesting indeed. Yes. Yeah. So we're looking forward to see what actually comes out of FinTech Islands conference that's happening right now in Barbados. We know there are a couple of other big conferences coming up in January as well. And yeah, we're just gonna, the Caribbean is heating up again. And that's why I love events. Events are wonderful spaces where a lot of people come, and they, in a very intense short period of time, people are like, talking about seeing how they can make deals and make things happen. So hopefully that's the case. The other event I want to talk about is Caribbean startup called POPME, or Piece of Cake Migration. They're having a global job fair week. It starts next week, October the 10th to the 15th. Really, it's about how they're trying to address the global talent shortage. So they're bringing together job seekers from across the world, as well as employers from across the world, to discuss different things. Silicon Caribbean will be in there. We're going to be talking about some pipeline trends that we're seeing in the tech industry. And so, so if you go to pocmi.com, you'll get more details. And if you want more details on FinTech Islands, go to fintechislands.com. These are not ads. We're just simply doing some community service to events that are happening across the region that we believe will be of value to you. And so, that's where we are. We actually got it on an hour, sir. What? Yes, this is why that's why I said we're just going to refer to it as a pop-up podcast. It's because this podcast is led by two busy entrepreneurs at different stages of their businesses. And so, but no, I'm just serious. We're going to make sure that we're trying to keep it as weekly as possible. The real core intention is that we want to add to the narrative in terms of what is going on in our Caribbean innovation economy, give you some news and give you some insights that you couldn't find anywhere else, based on our own extensive backgrounds in the region. So we hope that this week in Caribbean Tech, this episode, was of value to you. If you have any questions, shoot it to us, news@siliconcarib.com. If you have any press releases, if you think we should interview some, entrepreneurs, investors, other players, let us know. We will be definitely we're doing another interview with another key tech community leader in another country. The conversation that we had the last podcast with Selwyn Cambridge, the CEO of 10 Habitat out of Barbados. Was very insightful. It was well received, both in the audio format as well as here on YouTube. And so we're going to have another interview. I will let you know shortly. But keep stay tuned. Make sure that you subscribe. And if you found some value here, share it with some people. Be generous.
Yep.
So you're going back to your papers, sir, to go and make sure you get this money.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that some things happen. Yeah, I mean, as a startup, in this crazy economy, you have to just do what you need to do. It's that stage of business, and it's the economy and our economies are going through several stages of upheaval. So you just have to do what you need to do at this stage. But for me, I'm also parenting and lifing and all the other things that go along with it. So sometimes I'm a hamster on the wheel, and in addition to I have my PR people hitting me up and saying, hey, you need to do this or look at that. So I have a feature coming out soon, so I'll send it to you. Maybe you can
nice.
Up into the country. So,
well, of course.
So there are so many things that are happening at the same time, but we just have to keep focused and just get it done.
We chose it. We said yes to being entrepreneurs. It excites us and fulfills us in so many different ways. So sometimes when you hear us complain, it's because we're tired or somebody, we just got our ass kicked that particular day or week. And that's just part of the game. Or we would doing it anyway, because we just have this drive to make some things happen. So much success to you. I hope you get the money that you need at very great terms. Ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate you for listening in and watching This Week in Caribbean Tech from Silicon Caribbean. Like I said again, if you found something of value, comment, click like the button, and be generous and share it with your friends and colleagues. Of course, you can watch us on Silicon Caribbean TV channel on YouTube. And of course, you can listen to us on Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever it is that you listen to your audio podcasts. So see you back here again next week, Friday, for another episode. My name is Ingrid Riley, y'all.
And I'm Daniel Smith.
I'm just always so calm. And that's not how Trinities are. That's not how Trinities are. That's not how Trinities are. Anyway, y'all, later, yeah?